Welcome to THINKpod. My name is Francisco.
And I'm Aziz, and at ThinkPod, we speak about the smartest ideas and the biggest challenges facing the world right now. We speak about where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. Our guest on ThinkPod is Hans Schwab, co-founder and CEO of OriginALL. We discuss the terrifying impact of counterfeit goods and illicit trade. And we ask, as we migrate from a physical to a digital world, how can we make sure we don't import the problem of fraud with us? Hans, can you tell us about your work with OriginALL?
With great pleasure. What we do can actually be described in just in a few words. We give the means of differentiation to people and government agencies to differentiate legitimate products from fake or illicitly traded products.
Could you discuss briefly the impact of illicit pharma and your work in that regard?
Maybe I can go just a little bit back in the context and explain to you what counterfeiting actually represents.
Absolutely.
It is today a $4 trillion problem on economic impact on an annual basis. And these are 2016 numbers, and this is growing rapidly. Usually counterfeiting grows by about 10% a year, and this is just counterfeiting. It doesn't include illicit trade yet. One of the worst areas of counterfeiting is pharma, for the simple reason that pharma can be lethal, and very often it is. There are very few statistics, unfortunately, on it, but if you look at the WHO number on deaths, still today, on fake malaria medicine, just in sub-Saharan Africa, it's about 116,000 a year. This needs to be put into context because the WHO only reports numbers that have been reported to them. So that number is just as good as the reporting system. So you have to multiply that by several times. There are different theories of how many times you need to multiply that.
Insane.
But the reality is at the end that this is not a problem that kills a few 100,000. It is most probably on a global scale a problem that kills millions of people every single year for something that could be resolved relatively easily through technology.
You know, when I think about counterfeit products, I think about the stuff that I buy on Amazon on a daily basis, just as consumer goods. But you're talking about a bigger, much bigger issue here, that it's literally killing people. I mean, medicine is one example, but what other areas do you see that are causing significant harm by the presence of illicit and fake goods?
Well, to answer your question directly, every purchase of a fake or illicit good causes harm because it remains the primary source of funding of criminal, terrorist, and disruptive organizations, and it remains the main enabler of corruption. So the impact on the particular product, lethal or not, varies from the product, but it's not just medicines. We have had examples, for example, where cough medicine actually contained windshield cleaner fluid and killed dozens of babies. We had the problem of baby formula also, where it killed over 100 babies and toddlers. You have the problem of poison toys that will harm the health of a young child. But then you have food that has been tampered with. You have cigarettes, for example, that contain rat poison and animal droppings. And the list goes on. The reality is, this is not a pharmaceutical problem, and it is certainly not a luxury problem. That's what most people think. Why are we talking about this? It's a fake Louis Vuitton bag or something like that. It's not. It affects everybody. The water that we see in front of us could be fake or illicitly traded. Spice cubes, soda cans, mineral waters, sugary drinks, and so on and so forth. So you could assume that anything with a strong brand, a successful brand, and any fast-moving consumer good that is successful out there is being counterfeit. This is how you get to a $4 trillion industry, which, by the way, is somewhere in between the GDP of Germany and Japan. So this is not a problem that is isolated in a particular industry sector. It is across the board.
So $4 trillion, that's an enormous issue. Why is this not talked about more?
Well, I think for the longest time and until today, we suffer from fragmentation. That is the first problem. So in all fairness, there are efforts around the globe There are efforts from isolated industry sectors. We have an example, the world's largest cable manufacturer, who protects all of its products. From consumer products to industrial products, every single one of these products can be authenticated. So you have a AV cable that goes from your Apple TV box to your monitor, which is safer than a medicine that you buy around the world. That's the irony of the problem we're dealing with. And then there is also the fear from the industry that through what we are trying to achieve, mass verification of products, by bringing the solution to people, that we will uncover the weaknesses in their systems, which you will if you deploy mass verification. And that could, of course, harm the industry. But I think we are at a turning point where the industry, not just pharma, all industries that are affected, where instead of hiding between the regulatory complexities, they should step up and say, we need to solve this problem. It's a problem that is easy to solve, and it is a problem when it comes to the impact of humanity, it is absolutely massive. You can, with a simple decision of an organization like the FII, you can save millions of lives. You can deprive criminal and terrorist organizations from billions, trillions of dollars of revenues, and you can re-inject these financial resources into legitimate structures and economies.
I mean, this is quite worrying for us to hear. What have you seen that's been done, this kind of combating or kind of, tackling this huge problem, perhaps, with technology in the last 2 decades?
Again, very isolated. So there are good exercises out there. So certain governments have, for example, imposed traceability on a variety of industry sectors. But again, these remain isolated, and there is a tremendous lack of transparency when it comes to these isolated efforts. So they're not interoperable. This is what we're doing. We're an aggregation platform. We try to take everything that is out there and put it into a transparent single window that allows you to verify any product, regardless of the technology that has been used to authenticate and uniquely identify that product. So the efforts are there, but they're not having the intended impact, not even close to it. And this is where there has to be a stronger voice about this problem, where we say we need to be on a unified front to address this. Having small little efforts within a particular government or within a particular industry sector or companies, they have a certain impact, but it's minimal compared to a larger effort to eradicate the problem.
How does digital tech, in particular blockchain, help tackle this illicit trade?
We have some interesting, I believe, ideas in this regard. There is a fear on our side that we might be importing a problem from the physical world, which we miserably failed to address, into a digital world where we will allow it actually to grow at a much faster pace. So this needs to be prevented. So when you look at the new environments, immersive environments, social commerce that we will create in the future, at some point, if you are discussing online the acquisition, the purchase of a product, as immersive and beautiful as this environment might be in the future, at the end there is a physical product that gets purchased. And that's where I'm coming to your question with blockchain and tokenization. We have the vision to create and to work with companies so that tokens or digital currencies can be pre-programmed in a way that they cannot allow the purchase of a product that cannot be verified. And I think in there, with the ability to program a token, we can solve a problem in a much faster pace instead of importing the problem into the digital world and letting it grow at an exponential rate. So these new technologies, they can be of tremendous help. A dollar bill, you cannot pre-program. If I give you that dollar bill, you tell me you're going to buy a medicine, but at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want with it. If I give you a pre-programmed token and I pre-program into that token, let's talk about medicines, for example, that particular token can only purchase the medicine that you need. It can only purchase it from an authorized, legitimate seller, or caretaker, and it's only you that can get it, and it cannot be fake. All of this can be programmed into a digital currency and tokens that will make sure that you can simply not buy anymore a counterfeit product with the currency.
Speaking of tokens and blockchain, there's a rising case of forged NFTs. Is this inevitable?
Yes, I mean there we're going into the other sides of these technologies where we always talk about security by design, also transparency by design, privacy by design. We would like to bring in the anti-counterfeiting by design because these needs to be architectured into the platforms. When you don't address these issues on an architectural level, they will grow and they will evolve into a cancer inside your technological platforms. So can we avoid these? Yes, we can, but not in the aftermath. We need to have the consciousness that we're building new platforms and technologies that will have a major impact in our lives in the future, and we need to do that responsibly.
You've worked to build some national level counterfeiting, strategies. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and your work in that effort?
Absolutely. So, on the one hand, we focus on people, planet, profits. It's important for any company today. We want to protect people's lives and we want to make their purchases safe. On the other hand, every counterfeit product that we can take out of the market is replaced with a legitimate product, a product that contributes to the national economies, a product that pays its taxes, and that is on the government side a critical factor. Our platform today with the data collection and how it is displayed for the governments has tremendous value. Today you have anti-counterfeiting efforts. These are usually operations that are planned over months, if not sometimes even years. These operations, they last for weeks, months, and the result of that comes out weeks, months later. So if you add this all up together, you're talking about a very long time, particularly in today's day and age. We are a 24/7, 365 platform. We have been demonstrating it here. When you scan a product, within the same second, the analytical data is there. We call it the 5 W's. It's what, where, when, who, and in the case of pharmaceuticals, by whom. And if you aggregate that and you make that data available, you can immediately identify where are the weak spots, what is going on in that last mile. That's the big weakness of supply chain today, is the last mile issue. What is going on? This is where it happens. This is where the counterfeits come in, and this is where we're not paying attention. This is what we're here to resolve. And when you get the data of that, particularly through mass verification, you can take immediate action. And that is critical for governments today.
Wow.
You've spoken on governments nationally working on disrupting these illicit trades. Are there any global or international structures that help counter this illicit trade?
I would dare to say that I think right now we would be the only one that could have a global reach. It will depend on the willingness of local governments. So right now we're active in Africa. We have an agreement with the FII and the African Continental Free Trade Area. We signed a LOI in January here. We then signed a implementation agreement, a 5-year implementation agreement in April, and we now have our first partners involved when it comes to verification, authentication. We have our first clients that have been fully integrated. So it is thanks to the FII that we have an effort that went from launch in January to implementation and deployment in October. And this particular agreement will serve 54 of the 55 African nations. It will impact 1.3 billion people.
Wow.
We would like a Saudi project to benefit the GCC, and I think we will get there sooner or later, I hope, but the value could be tremendous for the region.
So this truly seems like a global issue, right? And supply chains is increasingly more international. People from all across the world work on products and services together to produce them.
Yeah.
In your opinion, given the high cost of this issue, how do you recommend governments work together, perhaps, to enable solutions like yours and more solutions to emerge?
I think the important recognition is that we are somewhat of an umbrella technology. We're not here to disrupt, we're not here to disrupt in a positive way, but not to disrupt local efforts, government efforts, industry sector efforts. We're here to integrate, and that is a mentality that a lot of governments don't have yet. Those that have taken action, they should integrate with us so that other governments can then replicate, copy their efforts, and the more we manage to integrate, the more effective we will be in our fight against counterfeiting and illicit trade. For as long as governments and industry sectors, they have the backyard vision of only take care of themselves and not have the broader vision, the problem will continue to grow and it will continue to impact people's lives and the economies of nations.
Well,
we're going to wrap up on one final question. You have an enormous vision impacting an enormous illicit trade. What personal legacy do you want to leave for future generations?
I think that's a question right now that is too big for me or to us. It's our focus is not on legacy. Our focus is to ensure that there is equitable access to verifiable products. That's our mission. That's what we wake up every morning. That is what we do. Your colleagues from the FII, they know how much we push for that, and we're doing everything we can to make this place a safer place and to help national economies.
well, thank you so much, Mr. Schwab. It was a pleasure having you at the ThinkPod, pleasure having you at the FII, and we hope to see you very soon.
Thank you. It's a great opportunity. Thank you very much.
We would love you to let others know about this podcast.
So please rate us, leave us a comment, and share with someone who might enjoy it too.
And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next episode.